All right. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're doing the Ruby on Rails course, and we're getting into the deployment. So I'm going to read through this. My blog app has gone down since my last video, and so I'm going to start kicking it up. We'll get the blog running, and maybe we'll do some development. So before continuing our web development journey, we must address one important task, showcasing our hard work to the world. Whether it's to share creations with friends, create a portfolio for future employers, or launch an online business, we need to host our applications somewhere others can publicly access on the internet. In this lesson, we will learn about how to deploy our apps, a hosting provider, allowing us to build, run, operate our web applications in the cloud. So the lesson overview, it's in this section, it's going to contain a general overview of topics that you will learn in this lesson. What a hosting provider is, the difference between static and dynamic websites or sites, what a PaaS is and how they work, or provider as a service, how to deploy a provider as a service provider, how to troubleshoot common deployment issues. What are hosting providers? Hosting providers are like server landlords. They own servers and rent space on them to customers. They can then use the space to store their websites and make them accessible to anyone on the web. You've already had some experience using a hosting provider when you deployed projects to GitHub Pages earlier in the curriculum. GitHub Pages is great for hosting static web pages for free, but we won't be able to use it for hosting our dynamic Ruby on Rails app. We're going to need something more powerful. Okay, cool. So static versus dynamic sites. Static websites consist of pre-written HTML pages. They're static because everyone who visits them will get the same content. To build static sites, you only need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Dynamic websites, on the other hand, are websites that can change content based on the user who is visiting them. Twitter is a good example. Every Twitter user sees a different content on their homepage feed based on who they follow. To build dynamic sites, you need HTML, CSS, and JS, but additionally, you need a server-side language such as Ruby and a database. The additional tech prohibits us from using GitHub Pages for hosting our Ruby on Rails apps. GitHub Pages cannot run Ruby code and doesn't have database services we can use. Luckily, many hosting providers do offer everything we need. They range from big complex cloud providers like AWS or Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, to the more beginner-friendly platform as a service PaaS or provider like Heroku, Railway, and Fly.io. We will be focusing on utilizing these latter providers in this lesson. So yeah, AWS and Google Cloud, these are difficult ones to deploy to, whereas these guys make it as easy as possible. Learning how to deploy web apps here is a super valuable skill, but because this project is focused kind of more on beginner stuff, it's a good way to use Heroku. We'll be using Heroku again. I played around with Fly.io and it was good, but I'm just going to stick with Heroku because of simplicity. So what is PaaS? Platform as a service. Oh, I was wrong. It's platform, not provider. A platform as a service is a specific kind of hosting provider. The most important thing to know about them is they are much easier to use and more approachable for beginners and other hosting providers. They manage many of the low-level nitty-gritty details with the underlying server infrastructure, allowing us as developers to focus more on our time on building our applications instead of configuring and managing the servers they run on. Taking our landlord metaphor a little further, a platform as a service is like having a landlord who takes care of all the utilities, building maintenance, and security, while you, the developer, focus on furnishing, decorating, and living in the space. It's an incredibly powerful model and perfect for us right now. Using a provider as a service, provider for deployment. Platform as a service provider for deployment can focus on learning and mastering Ruby on Rails without taking a significant diversion to learn specialized knowledge needed to manage and maintain servers ourselves. We will provide a list of recommended platform as a service providers later in this lesson. First, let us explore from a high level how PaaS providers work. Platform as a service. I've been saying providers as a service forever. How do platform as a service services work? PaaS providers work by giving you easy access to a few resources that any Rails app can't live without to function on the web. So it's got instances. The first and most crucial thing, platform as a service providers. I'm so confusing myself. Platform, yes. Give you the virtual computers called instances which run your app. Basically, one instance means a single instance of your application running at one time. That's like having a single computer run your app like you do on localhost. Multiple instances are like having several copies of your app running simultaneously, which allows you to handle more traffic. The cool thing about Rails is that you can always fire up more instances of your application. If you get too much traffic, the users have to wait for their requests to be filled. For most of your apps, one instance is plenty. You can support a lot of traffic using just a single instance. Many platform as a service providers will recommend later in this lesson give you the first one for free. So databases. The second most important thing that platform as a service providers give you is databases. They make it easy to spin up a new database and each app by doing all the setup and configuration for you. Many providers even manage the database for you by setting up automatic backups, ensuring your database is constantly updated with the latest critical security patches and ongoing maintenance that keeps your database up and running smoothly. The peace of mind that it affords you can't be overstated. You never want to be in a position where you're waking up at 4 a.m. to multiple alerts. Your database is on the fritz because of some security patch you forgot to apply, and there are no backups to fall back on. With Rails, we will be using Postgres, SQL, a popular open source database. Some PaaS providers like Heroku will automatically create a Postgres SQL database for our application when we deploy. Others like Fly.io will have a few more manual steps involved, but it still beats having to set up a database from scratch. Domain names. Platform as a service providers will give you a random domain when you first deploy in Heroku, something like Zen. Afternoon Falls 4209. If you want to visit the app, you can go there directly. So we've already done that in the previous video. So part 1 of this has us working with that. The domain name will always be your platform as a service provider. They give each app a unique name that's yours as long as your app lives on the platform. In the real world, you'll want to link your own custom domain. For example, my cool domain. I'm thinking about making this happen at blog.usefulprogrammer.org. So right now there's nothing there. I hope there's nothing there. And so hopefully we'll be able to do that. So it's worth mentioning that you don't need a custom domain names for portfolio projects you'll be building in this course. The random domains your platform as a service provider gives you will be good enough, but if you have an itch for tricking out your app with a custom domain, you want to purchase a domain from a register like GoDaddy or I Want My Name. I use Google Domains. To find a new domain, try using Domainer. But luckily I already have a domain. Once you have your domain, you need to point your project, your provider you are using, and we'll have exhaustive documentation on using custom domain names on their platform. Our recommended platform as a service. Choosing provider as a service platform as a service provider was once a simple decision. Heroku had a free tier that gave you everything you needed, host as many small apps as you wanted. Unfortunately, they discontinued their free tier in 2022 when they were purchased by Microsoft. Luckily, there are still plenty of other great options out there. The downside is they all have very limited tiers for this reason. And to accommodate as many of our learners as possible, we're going to recommend a range of options instead of just one. You can host most of your projects for free using a combination of different providers we recommend, but you'll have a bit more legwork to do. You'll have to create an account and get familiar with a few different providers. If you can pay for hosting, things are more straightforward. It will allow you the luxury of choosing one provider you can learn deeply, and you'll be able to manage all your apps from one place. Whatever your circumstances are, we've got you covered. Here are the platform as a service providers we recommend. So they've got Fly. $20 a month should be enough to host 8 apps. So that's way more than most people need. I think I have some videos about you doing deploying with Fly. So I'm not going to discuss that right now. Railway I have no experience with. It seems like they have a simple deployment process. You can link your project's GitHub repo. Oh yeah, that's how you do it with fly.io. Now I remember. So you basically, it's not a lot of command line stuff. It's really the easiest way. It seems like the free plan, you get 500 free one-time use hours on their free plan. And the applications are never put to sleep when inactive. With this in mind, the free allowance is only enough to host one app for 20 days and thus isn't recommended. Render allows you to deploy simple blueprints which link your projects to your GitHub. The free 750 allowance is enough to host a few apps without paying anything. However, database are separate on Render, and the lowest spec database costs $7. Okay. $21 a month is enough to host 3 applications. All right. And Heroku is a straightforward deployment combination using a combination of simple and well-documented CLI and Git. Git here is a very mature platform, $5 a month for an eco program. Heroku's lowest tier Postgres will cost $5 a month. Okay. So $20 a month will be enough to host 3 applications for 1,000 hours and an additional 5,000 after that. All right. Debugging troubleshooting deployments. All right. So yeah, right now, the application that I deployed to Heroku on the previous part video is not running. And so, yeah, let me think. Should I go through this? Errors are an inevitable part of software deployment process. They especially have a habit of popping up when deploying a new environment like hosting provider. When this happens, the key is not to panic and to follow a calm step-by-step debugging process. In most cases, you'll be running into errors that thousands of developers have encountered before. These errors are well documented and often have simple solutions you can find with a little bit of Google foo. There are 2 stages of the deployment process where you are most likely to encounter problems. These are during deployment and right after. So on deployment, if you run into an error while deploying, the first thing to do is to check the build logs. Okay, cool. Man, I wonder if we should just start doing that. So yeah, we're in a problem right now. Okay, I'm just going to read through this and then we'll figure it out later. After each one. The build logs. Finding the build log should be easy. It's the stream of output after kicking off a new deployment. Scroll through these logs and find the point where your deployment encountered the error. It should stand out. Okay, we're actually going to do this with my application. So it should stand out from the rest of the output and will often look like the stack trace you've already seen with Ruby. The error output will tell you exactly what went wrong. If you don't recognize the error or what might cause it, your next step will be to copy and paste it into your favorite online search engine. You'll likely find Stack Overflow post with a solution. You can get support in our Discord to server if searching doesn't lead to anything conclusive. Most of the errors you'll face during this stage will be related to properly setting up your app with what your hosting provider needs. Double checking the deployment guide for your hosting provider is always a good place to start. It's very easy to miss a step or mistype something. So after deployment, you've just deployed your app successfully, everything is going your way, and it'll be a great day. But then you visit your app and you're greeted with the dreaded 500 page. Nothing indicates a panic to a developer like a 500 page. You want to see what a 500 page looks like? If you try to refresh here, you'll see that the Heroku logs, it says to check that. So if we were to go and use Heroku, we're going to see this should be a 500 error. Status 503. There we go. You watch them closely as you refresh your page and browse and reproduce the error. This will, okay, yeah. Application logs are the output of it running. So let's see if that's actually running right now. So if we were to pull that over here, and then we've got this here. We come down to the bottom. I'm just going to highlight this so you know where we are. And if I refresh this page, yeah, we're seeing that. So these are real-time error logging. So yeah. The application or output of your application as it's running. It tells you what's happening with the app, and all the incoming requests of the database queries are recorded, and you can see them being recorded in real time. So if you're getting a 500 error, you can open up the logs and watch them closely as you refresh the page on your app in the browser to reproduce the error. This will either tell you exactly what the problem is or generate some leads you can use to dig further. If the logs tell you the application crashes before it even boots and give you nothing else to go on, the next tool is to reach for the Rail console. The console boots your app, so you just open it in production, can produce a better error message that will tell you exactly why the app is crashing and what part of the app is causing it. A common cause of 500 errors in Rails after deployment is forgetting to migrate the database. If you're getting a 500 error and you have a new database migrations and the latest changes, run Rails DB migrate on your production to get it up and running again. Okay, cool. Going further with troubleshooting tools. As your application grows, you want to get more sophisticated with error tracking. For example, you can use services like Sentry to track and monitor errors using a slick, easy-to-use interface and get notified when that happens. The services will give you more information about the error and the request that has caused it, saving you a ton of time. But setting up and using these services are out of the scope of this lesson. You can get by just fine with the logs and the Rails console for the first few apps. One final tip: if something has broken in your latest deployment and after successful deployments in the past, backtrack to the last working version and determine what changes you made and slowly reintroduce these changes as you need to. This will be where the Git skills you've been learning will start to really pay off and save you immense amounts of time. You'll be able to git log and see all of your latest changes. Git checkout to revert to a previous working version quickly. So here they say deploy your blog app project. Use one of the linked deploy guides for your platform as a service provider. Okay, so well, we already kind of did that. So this video is part 1's more about getting it to be deployed. This video is going to be about fixing it now that it's wrong. So if I look down here in Heroku, I can see that we have no web process running. And so if I run that there, you can see I actually figured this out a little bit earlier because I was just trying to make sure I knew where I was going. But it basically says you need to, the issue here is that you're not running web dynos. You can tell Heroku to do this via Heroku PS Scale 1 web. All right, cool. But I also want to have some fun. I want to see what ChatGPT says. Heroku error. It looks like you're running in web no process error. It depends on your specific situation. So they want to get you to do the proc file. They don't know that we're on Rails app, so it's telling us to run node. Scale your dyno. There we go. Same error, same response as Stack Overflow. So let's give that a try. So I'm over here. I've changed directories. I'm in the blog app. I guess I should be doing this in Visual Studio Code, but for now we'll just do it here. Yeah, we're just gonna run this. Heroku scale that. Okay, item could not be updated. The app owner has to subscribe to the eco scale. Oh, that's right, Heroku. You're not just gonna give me free hosting. So I've just decided I'm just gonna pay for this one. I've got tons of projects in here, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm pretty sure it's simple. There's no add-ons for this app. Configure add-ons. Change dyno type. Subscribe to eco. There we go. All right. And so now that I've subscribed, I should be able to run this by pressing up. Scaling done. Okay. So turns out it's not very difficult to set these things up if you pay for them. So this is good though. This is a different error. The error that we had before was that 500 error, I guess. I don't even remember it. But now it says it's scaled to eco here. And now if I refresh the page here, we're getting different error. So the server is running locally and accepting connections to the socket. Connection to the socket here. Huh. Okay, it looks like it's a database error. Internal server error. Action view template error. Connection. Okay, so I think that this is going to be another problem with the add-ons. Database. For Redis. Postgres. Plan name $5. Okay, so I'm going to pay for this one too by choosing online order form. This will add Postgres to boiling chamber. Okay, so I think what it's saying here, what I came to the conclusion is that this connection to socket, and then it was giving me Postgres error stuff here, and said there's no such file. And so let's see how smart Postgres is. If I just turn that on and pay for it, and I refresh the page, still the same error. Blogs does not exist. Okay, so now it's time to check into our application ls. And I'm just going to open it up in Visual Studio Code, make it full screen, and let's see if we can get it running locally. So we're going to go Rails S. That should get us going in localhost 3000. Cool. And these are the blogs that we created before. So if you want to see how to build this little thing, then we'll go to part 1. So we've got it running locally. So I'm just going to start another tab. This is I always rename these just so I know what they are. Server, and then this one's going to be we'll just leave it at ZSH. So ls. Let's see. Okay. So what's the Heroku's command for Heroku run Rails DB migrate? I think that's it. Heroku run Rails DB migrate. Okay, so it's boiling chamber. Just looks good. Okay, so the fact that this wasn't there, because like if you run, if I just did Rails DB migrate, this is running it locally, which it looks like it's already migrated there. It doesn't do anything. So this tells me, because it printed it out and it said that it created that, and that our error was select blogs from blogs, and there's no relation. Blogs does not exist. For that reason, I don't think that the blogs was there, and maybe that will fix our error. So I'm going to come back to our production app, and there you go. It's alive. And so this would be the first production blog. This is the first production blog from the useful programmer.org tutorial series on completing the Odin projects Ruby on Rails Ruby on Rails curriculum. Oh, jeez. That's just a very difficult one. So if we create that, we've got it. Okay, so we've got a production Ruby on Rails application. We could go back to blogs and we'd see them all. And so yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can do with this. But now that it's deployed, that's a huge issue. I think part 1 had me setting it up. If anybody goes through that and they would like a refresh, I could probably do that. But yeah, so we've got it running locally, but then we also have it running in production. And so now what do you think that we should do? Let's see. Well, I'm just going to take these all back onto the same tab for now. And we'll just mark this as complete, because we've basically deployed the app to Heroku. So we can move on to the next one. Yeah, so that's it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I know it was kind of a refresher from the last one, but I'm going to start making more videos. So we'll do active record basics next. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.